America, sweet America. You know, God done shed his grace on thee.
On this edition of Lexington Now, a new infrastructure project, 20 years smoke-free, and Second Chance Academy. I'm Neil Noah, and welcome to Lexington Now for the week of July 3rd, 2023. Major federal funding has been approved for the replacement of a railroad overpass on North Broadway that has been a traffic problem for decades. Mayor Gorton joined state and federal officials for the announcement.
This project is a huge step forward for our city. It addresses problems that we've had for decades. This funding will make a huge difference to people in the neighborhoods who want to walk or cycle through the underpass. There's nowhere to do that right now. It will also clear up traffic issues for those who use North Broadway to travel between downtown and the interstate. This is a major arterial that has dealt with traffic snarls for years because of flooding or trucks actually stuck under the overpass. Secretary Gray and Secretary Buttigieg, you both know that the mayor's office is where the rubber meets the road when it comes to problem solving. Thank you both for helping Lexington solve a huge problem right here.
A lot of attention, of course, has been paid, and rightly so, to the big projects, what's called the mega projects, as Secretary Buttigieg describes them, such as the Brent Spence Companion Bridge, the corridor project between Covington and Cincinnati. The bipartisan infrastructure law has allowed us to finally get that project off the drawing board. But, you know, equally important, and this is what the Secretary has emphasized so much, and the Governor has emphasized so much, equally important are the smaller scale projects that address neighborhood level infrastructure needs. Projects that will, in many cases, rectify historical inequities that past development created, and in that process, touch the lives of people who must deal with those inequities every single day. Secretary Pete, having been a mayor, as Mayor Gorton said earlier, he knows firsthand the importance of projects like Northland, Arlington. And for residents of the Northland and Arlington neighborhoods, having sidewalks and bike lanes on North Broadway is going to make life different. Fixing the problem of chronic street flooding when it rains on North Broadway is going to make life better. Having safe access to restaurants, groceries, and critical social services like drug treatment, a health clinic, and an employment office on and around North Broadway is going to make life better.
I tell you, I've been traveling the country, looking at bridges, tunnels, roads, and so often what you see is the most cutting-edge, state-of-the-art transportation technology of the early 20th century. And you know, you look at this and it's a great example. This railroad bridge was built 86 years ago. That's before just about all of us here were alive, and I'm sure that the way it was designed at the time made a lot of sense. But it's also clear that it needs a lot of improvement. It is just too low for trucks. On average, a truck a year crashes into it, costing in terms of time, money, and even lives. It creates those backups that the mayor talked about. The underpass is also too narrow, which means that there is no room for sidewalks or access to bus stops. That stops people from safely crossing, and that can cut off entire neighborhoods and communities from the access they need to get around to jobs and schools and essential resources. And it relies on outdated storm drain infrastructure, which means it contributes to flooding events, and there's a risk of runoff from those truck crashes I mentioned earlier, making it into the local aquifer. So it is long past time for a better solution. And as with so many other projects that I see as we go around the country, the community's known that for a long time. The community has had a vision, the mayor's had a vision, the neighborhood, the council members, everybody who comes together knows what needs to be done, but too often that vision has been deferred because of a lack of funding. That's why President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law is so important. And that's why, thanks to your hard work and your strong application, I'm pleased to be here to officially announce that we are awarding Lexington $8 million for the Reconnecting Northland Arlington project. So what's this funding going to do? It's going to help replace this bridge with one that is taller, wider, and safer. It's going to add new sidewalks and bike infrastructure. It's going to improve that stormwater infrastructure. It's going to make bus stops more accessible. And most importantly, it's going to better connect the community so that people can access all of those resources and jobs and opportunities that Lexington has to offer. There is a lot to love about this project, and I want to commend the leaders involved for what you've done to make it possible, because again, that strong support from the community, the application you sent in, the letters from businesses, organizations, and leaders, the governor, who was, to put it politely, relentless in getting my attention on this, Pan Bowl Lake and other needs in the state, that really made a difference. Local nonprofits wrote about how the project could make it easier for people from low-income and underserved communities to get access to healthy food, as well as schools and healthcare, jobs, and essential services. Train and transit operators wrote about how this will improve safety and reliability, and how it makes it possible for more people than ever to get around the city affordably and conveniently. The water and sewer service wrote about how it would prevent fuel and dangerous chemicals from potentially making their way into Cane Creek and affecting the water supply here. And again, you had elected leaders, by the way, I would add, on both sides of the aisle, coming together around this project.
20 years ago, Lexington's smoking ban went into effect. City leaders marked the milestone, and we were there for the celebration.
Today we are celebrating the 20th anniversary of Lexington's historic ordinance prohibiting indoor smoking in public places. We remember the date, July the 1st, 2003. When we passed this ordinance. This is a big deal. Lexington, yes. Lexington's ordinance has had an enormous impact on the health of Lexington citizens as well as those who visit Lexington. In terms of public health, it is one of the most important, if not the most important, ordinances we have passed in the last 20 years. It has saved countless lives. Back in 2003 and continuing today, the goal of this work has been to give people access to clean air and a healthy environment. After Lexington's smoke-free law took effect, there was a reduction in heart attacks and emergency department visits for asthma, and the smoking rate in Fayette County declined nearly 32%. This ordinance paved the way for the University of Kentucky, Dr. Todd, to adopt a tobacco-free campus to protect the health of students, employees, and visitors. I'm just so proud of everyone who has been involved over the years with this effort. We have left a public health legacy for our city's workers and residents.
So I was honored to be one of those who recommended Lexington pursue an ordinance to prohibit smoking inside public buildings. I kind of thought they'd laugh us out of the room, but they didn't, and they asked if we would help them pull together a plan to do so. The ordinance wound its way through the Service Committee. It was the subject of multiple meetings. The public was engaged in a lively debate. Some were for, some were against, but at the end of the day, the ordinance that was originally designed by David Stevens to be restaurants only covered all restaurants, bars, and public buildings open to the public. And the law, I might say later, was strengthened by the council to include all workplaces and electronic cigarettes, the use of electronic cigarettes or vapes. Since then, 58 other Kentucky communities have passed smoke-free ordinances because of Lexington. Yeah. Most of them are strong laws, like our law covering all workplaces, public places, bars, restaurants, et cetera. And we now protect 38.2% of Kentuckians. So if you live in a place like Lexington, we have fewer newly diagnosed cases of lung cancer every year. Pretty awesome, right? We have fewer preterm births. You know, and preterm births cost a lot of money to take care of these little tiny babies. So we have fewer preterm births in places with comprehensive smoke-free laws like Lexington's, and we have fewer youth smokers. So fewer kids start smoking, and fewer kids even use smokeless tobaccos. So we know the benefit of these laws. Please join me in thanking Mayor Gordon and all the council members for their pro-health leadership.
We got a national award for being the first major university in America to go smoke-free. And when I went out to receive that award, which was due to Ellen's effort, the people that were there said, we could never get this through our board of trustees. How did you do this? And it really was, I think, lubricated by the efforts that were made by the restaurants here that are represented and by the city. And it was the right thing to do. And I want to applaud President Eli Capilouto for keeping this vision going on smoke-free, but also setting up facilities to attack the problems, these things that Kentuckians need to fix, because if we fix our health and fix our education, we'll have a different state and a better state. So congratulations to everybody here who had the courage to do what you've done. Let's keep it up and make Kentucky a better place. Thank you. Thank you.
After this, we'll tell you about a second chance for former offenders. Welcome back to Lexington Now. Second Chance Academy launched this week and is aimed at helping nonviolent offenders who have paid their debt to society and finding meaningful employment. Here's more.
Today, I am announcing the creation of the Second Chance Academy, which will focus on job training and job placement. Through the Second Chance Academy, people who are in jail will have a second chance at finding a job once they leave jail. We want to put inmates on the path to success and get them off the path that often results in people getting out of jail only to return a few months later. So while they are here, we are working on employability skills, resume writing, mock interviews, and performing an interest inventory, all to give our inmates a chance at employment and success. This is a 6-week program that focuses on inmates, not violent offenders, those who want to work. Our city dedicated $150,000 in American Rescue Funds to fund this. The Second Chance Academy will work hand in hand with the Barrier-Free Reentry Program, we call it Be Free, which also starts July the 1st. This program, funded through a $616,000 federal grant secured by Congressman Andy Barr, is designed to help those in recovery for substance misuse who are leaving the jail. Like the Second Chance Academy, the Barrier-Free program helps people find employment.
The men and women of the Division of Community Corrections stand always ready to make their city the best it can be. We should always want to help those that seek to help themselves. Providing those being released from detention with new opportunities, services, and support that give them the best chance to learn a vocation and rejoin their families on a higher plane than when they left them is wholly a worthwhile endeavor that we are proud to play a part in with our city and community partners, and a good way to help those seeking to help themselves. Imagine for a moment how hopeful it must feel to leave the jail armed with a vocation and job leads and a plan for your future.
We're incredibly excited to partner with the City of Lexington on the Second Chance Academy. For over 15 years, we've seen that when Second Chance employees succeed, our community at large succeeds. Jubilee Jobs, we believe in the power of potential, we believe in hope, and we believe that the power of gainful employment to transform lives. Our mission's not just about helping an individual secure a job, but by providing an enduring lifeline of hope and dignity that comes from purposeful work. Second Chance Academy represents a significant milestone in our quest to extend this lifeline to those reentering society post-incarceration. The Academy is designed to equip individuals with the skills, the resources, and most importantly, the self-belief that they need to succeed and embark on the new prosperous chapter in their life. Our program's going to work with interested individuals about 60 days prior to their release, where we're going to take them through classes where they're going to learn about how to not only obtain a job, but retain that job, and also how to reintegrate into society well.
Statistics have shown that the lack of employability skills and employment is one of the biggest factors affecting recidivism. And so that's what Jubilee Jobs is here to do. They're going to help with those employability skills. They're going to help them find and maintain full-time suitable employment. The unemployment rate right now for those is about 27% of those coming out of incarceration. So we definitely want to work to lower that unemployment rate. By providing formerly incarcerated the opportunity at gainful employment, we unlock a pool of untapped labor, talent with higher retention rates, lower turnover, and increase in workforce participation. Lexington is definitely taking the right steps to alleviate those barriers and to help those find employment. I've been very encouraged by our businesses throughout the community as I've told them about the Second Chance Academy, and they're very supportive of this and look forward to hiring some of our individuals.
Lexington Police's goal to protect and to serve is bolstered by many community partners. And with that in mind, we are launching a multi-part series highlighting some of those partnerships. We begin this week with OMAC, Operation Making a Change.
My name is Gerald Gio Gibson. I'm a community program coordinator for the Lexington Police Department. I'm also the founder of OMAC, Operation Making a Change. OMAC is a mentoring program that focuses on violence prevention, gang prevention, intervention, you name it. The program was started through me, of course. I was actually sitting in a prison cell in 1999, December 31st for the third time. And I was really starting to wanting to understand, what my purpose was. And so it was in that cell that the concept of OMAC came, by the grace of God, of course. And when I came home from prison in 2003, I spent the next 3.5 years working on myself, and that opened the door for everything that I'm doing now. I grew up in a home of violence, poverty, substance abuse. And so, me having a front row seat of all of that, my curiosity, of course, got the best of me. So I ended up, going down that road of gang life, the addiction with the drugs, the whole criminal element. And so, I was a very young kid at the time. So to me, it's important because, we have to reach these kids at a young age. And I just don't want to see any of these kids or anybody go through the same things that I had to go through.
OMAC is important because it's a lot of younger kids and also teenagers like myself that go through problems or just situations. OMAC helps with that by teaching and influencing the community and other people in the community how to overcome those or challenge those problems or situations.
So there's different components of OMAC. Number one is we are partners with the Fayette County Public Schools. We go in and we do prevention and intervention. So I will get in contact with a school counselor or the principal, and they will identify kids that could potentially be going down that road that I talked about, earlier. And so I would go into the schools and work with the same kids throughout the entire school year. So that might be 20 kids, 25 kids, third grade, all the way up to the college level. So we're in there building relationships with the kids.
There's a lot of work you do that you have to put into it and stay focused and do a lot of listening. It's fun. You get to do a lot of things, learn a lot of things.
We have something that we can provide that is positive, that is consistent, and something that, I think every kid should be involved in, other than hanging out in the streets or just don't have no type of direction. A lot of kids don't have a lot of positive structure. We could be their first and last meal. So we just want to make sure that these kids know that in this community there's something positive for them to get involved with other than something criminal. What we do also is the after-school part of it. So many years ago there was a bill passed, I think it was Bill Stented 200, and they were looking for alternatives for kids instead of locking them up. And so OMAC became an alternative to incarceration. So every Tuesday and Thursday from 5 to 7, we will meet with those court-ordered kids here for 12 weeks at a time, 3 times a year. Our kids will come in, they probably had a long day, school, and whatever they got to go through with their families. We have open gyms, so we let the kids shoot basketball, have fun, just run around, just run that steam off. Once we're done with that part, we circle up and just check in with the kids. And then we will come down to the OMAC office and we will have a curriculum, of course, and we will do a topic of the day, whether it's building trust, whether it's gang prevention, whether it's the importance of education, etc. And once these kids are done in this room, we feed the kids dinner. So, and then once that's over, of course, their parents pick them up and we do it again. If they make it through the program, they graduate, and get a certificate of completion, a graduation dinner, and they can also come back. So even if they graduate, doesn't mean that they have to be done with the program. But a lot of kids come back as leaders. It's not all about how you start, it's about how you finish. So we want to make sure that every kid walks away knowing that they have somebody to come back to. If they ever need letters of recommendations, just need a safe place to come to, we want to make sure that these kids, know and understand that they can always come back to us.
I actually learned a lot from OMAC. I learned that you can always change your life around no matter how hard it is.
I've learned that it's a great opportunity to make a change.
I became the first student of OMAC. A lot of people ask me how it works. Does it work? Well, I'm the living proof of it. I almost gave up on myself. So I would encourage anybody that's out there that's going through whatever they're going through, if you just have that willing mind to get up every day and to make that change, is definitely possible. It may not happen, at a snap of a finger. It was a process for me. So I'm very blessed and thankful just to be where I'm at right now.
Join us next week for part 2 of this series. That's all for now, but as always, you can keep up with us on social media. Check out the latest traffic updates on Twitter at LexRex, or catch our live traffic cams on lexingtonky.gov. For all of us at Lex TV, I'm Neil Noah, and that's it for now.